Sophie Cunningham was the face of Adidas' latest women's basketball campaign, until the behind-the-scenes unraveling started making waves. The commercial, which pushed aside other stars to spotlight Cunningham, wasn't just a branding coup. It signaled Adidas' bet on her becoming a central marketing figure. But that visibility came with strings attached. Whispers emerged about internal contract missteps and compensation gaps that didn't align with Cunningham's growing influence. What looked like a breakthrough endorsement may now be ground zero for a much bigger legal and financial conflict.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
As the Indiana Fever navigate their roster decisions, Cunningham's dual identity as both player and brand becomes increasingly hard to ignore. Her leverage isn't just rooted in her on-court versatility. It's built on viral visibility, corporate reach, and public momentum. The team now faces a uniquely modern dilemma. Do they match her rising worth or risk fracturing a core championship blueprint? With Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell anchoring the franchise, the stakes around Cunningham's contract reflect a deeper shift in how superstar value is measured and rewarded. Sophie Cunningham is not here to play small. After years of grinding in Phoenix and carving out a rep as a reliable, gritty player, she's now on the verge of redefining what it means to be a marketable star in the WNBA. And it's all coming to a head in Indiana. From media headlines to brand endorsements to a very public contract standoff, Cunningham has officially entered a new tier of athlete, and her next move could reshape the Fever's entire future. So, how did we get here? Let's start with the Adidas deal. Not just a random athlete-featured promo, but the ad, a full-blown, high-production campaign centered entirely around Sophie. No sidelining her next to three other stars. No background cameos. Adidas were front and center, made her the face of their new shoe, and sent a message. This isn't just a solid player. This is a brand. The choice was strategic. Adidas saw what's happening. Sophie Cunningham isn't just trending, she's converting. Her media appearances are gaining traction. Her podcast clips go viral. Her fan base isn't just big, it's loyal. This isn't a one-season spike. It's a momentum shift. She's tapping into a media-savvy, personality-driven audience that responds to authenticity, and that's rare in a league where so many players are boxed into quiet professionalism. Then boom, comes a podcast episode. Cunningham casually drops that she's not only expecting a bigger contract, but she's open to other cities. New York, Minneapolis. That's not just player chatter. That's a pressure tactic. A clear signal to Indiana. Meet the number, or someone else will. And now, the Fever have a problem on their hands. Isn't just a complimentary piece anymore. She's become essential on and off the court. Her on-court impact is undeniable. She's the kind of player who doesn't need the spotlight to change a game. Guard multiple positions? Check. Facilitate when needed? Check. Score when the stars hit doubled? Absolutely. That kind of versatility doesn't show up in highlight reels, but it shows up in playoff wins. And now, it's tied directly to her market value. The Fever know what they have. Cunningham is a unique connector, especially crucial on a team with young stars like Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell. Her ability to read the floor, shift defensive matchups, and manage tempo when things get shaky, that's not something you replace with a cheaper role player. You lose Sophie, you don't just lose a rotation piece. You lose cohesion. You lose chemistry. But keeping her comes at a price. Reports suggest her demands could push close to $600,000 annually. That's not an outrageous number given the cap flexibility Indiana currently holds. With Clark and Mitchell still on manageable contracts, there's room to work with. But the decision isn't just about math. It's about precedent. It's about the message it sends. Pay her big, and you're betting on brand value and media momentum. Lowball her, and you risk losing one of your most multidimensional assets. And it's not just about Indiana anymore. Cunningham's public comments about exploring other cities weren't just random drops. They were calculated. New York? That's a media haven. Minneapolis? Deep fan base, stable front office. She knows the market. She knows what her brand can do when paired with the right spotlight. She's holding the cards. And the Fever are now in a position where they have to either fold or pay to stay in the game. It's a turning point, not just for Cunningham, but for how the WNBA treats marketable players who live outside the usual superstar mold. This isn't about a stat sheet leader demanding MVP money. It's about a hybrid star, a media presence, and a connector who brings value that doesn't always show up in the box score, but absolutely shows up in fan engagement, locker room trust, and team identity. Cunningham is proving that being a glue player doesn't mean being underpaid. In the new media economy of sports, personality equals profit. And Sophie? She's profitable. Adidas saw it. The fans saw it. And Sophie saw it, too. What makes this moment so pivotal is that it's forcing the Fever, and the league as a whole, to confront the modern athlete brand dilemma. How do you pay a player who's more than her numbers? How do you value someone whose public influence is suddenly moving faster than the league's ability to capitalize on it? Because here's the truth. The WNBA is still learning how to manage players with real crossover appeal. The league has long leaned on a collective identity. Team first, system driven, don't outshine the group energy. But Cunningham isn't waiting for permission. She's asserting her value in public, building a personal brand, and forcing the team to respond on her terms. And if they don't, she walks. This is what leverage looks like in the new era. Viral clips, strategic comments, endorsement deals, fans chanting your name, not just because of how you played last night, but because of how you made them feel on social media, in interviews, and as a prototype of the next-gen WNBA player. Not just someone who helps a team win, but someone who sells it. And Indiana has to decide, do they want to build around that or risk losing it? Because this isn't just a contract. This is a power shift. A redefining of who gets to demand top dollar. A player who's not the team's leading scorer, but still drives value in ways that are just as important, especially in a league trying to grow its audience. The front office is under pressure. They know Sophie's departure would not just be a roster shakeup. It would be a headline. It would be a fan revolt. It would be a brand loss. And if she lands in a city like New York, you better believe the receipts will come back fast. So now, we're watching a rare kind of standoff. One where the player has the leverage, the brand to back it up, and the receipts to prove she's worth every dollar. Whether Indiana pays up or plays a conservative will say everything about how they plan to build around Caitlin Clark, and whether they understand the value of surrounding her with not just hoopers, but isn't just asking for a raise. She's redefining what value looks like in the WNBA. And her next move, whether it's staying, walking, or going all in on her personal brand, could set a precedent for how modern contracts get negotiated in this league. So what do you think? Should the Fever give Sophie the bag? Is she worth a near-max deal? Or is Indiana playing it smart by holding out? Drop your take in the comments. Like if you're following every twist in this drama. Share if you think more fans need to understand what's really at stake. And subscribe. We're not done tracking the off-court power plays shaking up the league. Sophie Cunningham's contract saga isn't just another off-season negotiation. It's the loudest warning shot the WNBA has seen in years. This isn't about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about power, presence, and perception. And right now, Sophie holds all three in the palm of her hand. Let's break it down clearly. She's not just asking to be paid more. She's demanding to be valued as a player, as a public figure, and as a brand that can't be boxed into the usual role player narrative. And the league's front offices? They're being forced to face something they've long tried to avoid. What happens when your glue player turns into a full-on marketing force? This isn't theoretical anymore. Sophie's face is on billboards. Her name trends on social. Adidas made her the centerpiece of a major campaign. Not because she's the best scorer in the league, but because she sells. She brings in fans. She brings in followers. She brings in relevance. That Adidas commercial was a turning point. Let's be clear. Brands don't gamble like that without data. They saw the numbers. They saw her podcast pulling clips across sports media. They saw her name connected to the league's most talked about rookie, Caitlin Clark. They saw her influence. And instead of chasing a top 3 MVP candidate, they picked Sophie. Not a background role. Not a shared spotlight. The whole campaign. That kind of move doesn't just elevate her. It redefines her market position. Suddenly, She's not just a part of the Indiana Fever system. She's someone bigger than it. She's a brand within a brand. And when that happens, the math changes, the leverage flips, the player has a negotiating power, and the franchise better catch up or get left behind. And Sophie's making it very clear. She's not here to be polite about it. She went on her own podcast and made waves. She didn't whisper it through her agent. She said it with her chest. She wants a bigger contract. She's open to other cities. She's watching what the Fever are willing to do. And if it doesn't match her value, she'll walk. And honestly, she could. That's what makes this moment so tense. She's not bluffing. She has the numbers. She has the reach. She has the endorsements. And crucially, she has options. Cities like New York and Minneapolis aren't random name drops. They're calculated threats. Bigger markets. Bigger exposure. Teams that could slot her in and build on her current wave of momentum. This isn't an empty flex. It's negotiation 101, but in the most public way possible. And it's brilliant, because every step she takes, every interview, every brand deal, every soundbite, is turning up the pressure, not just on Indiana, but on the entire WNBA front office structure that's not built to handle players like her. Players who don't fit neatly into the superstar or role player binary. Players who generate value in both real life and online. Players who demand to be seen. And Indiana, they're cornered. They know they need her. She's a system stabilizer, a vocal leader, the link between the flashy rookie and the established core. She knows how to play with stars and play without ego. But now, the ego's arrived, and rightfully so. Because when endorsements start rolling in and the cameras start following, the salary better match the spotlight. And yes, the Fever could afford her, with young talent like Caitlin Clark still on a rookie deal, and other pieces locked in affordably. There is flexibility, but that's what makes a decision so loaded. Because if they don't give Sophie what she wants, it won't be about cap space. It'll be about principle. A message that says, we value you, but not that much. And that message, it travels to fans, to other players, to free agents watching from afar, wondering how Indiana handles business. And in this media environment, perception is policy. Let's be clear, losing Cunningham wouldn't just be about losing a player. It would be about losing a cultural asset, a fan favorite, a figure who helped carry the off-court storylines, while Caitlin Clark dealt with the pressure of being the face of women's basketball. Sophie took that pressure off the rookie. She soaked up media, deflected narratives, and carried herself like a vet who understood the moment. And if she walks, that story flips fast. Suddenly, you're not the up-and-coming dynasty. You're the team that let a core piece leave in her prime because you underestimated her impact. And the fallout from that, it doesn't just sting on the court. It burns in headlines, in fan forums, in the front office PR narrative that becomes very hard to control. This is the evolution of sports economics. Front offices used to calculate value based solely on stats, points, rebounds, efficiency ratings. But today, it's bigger than that. You have to factor in market pull, influence, sponsorship magnetism, the power to shift public perception. And Sophie Cunningham is doing all of that while still delivering on the floor. She's not just outperforming her contract. She's outperforming the outdated system built to contain her. And it's not just about her either. Her situation is symbolic of a larger trend happening in the WNBA and across sports in general. Athletes are becoming media figures in their own right. They're no longer dependent on team platforms or league marketing. They build their own narratives, create their own brand equity, and walk into negotiations with data and influence that the league's infrastructure hasn't caught up to. That's what makes Sophie's case so important. She's not just fighting for a bigger paycheck. She's fighting to redefine what qualifies as max contract material in this new era. The stakes? Huge. If Indiana pays her, they send a message to every multifaceted player in the league. We see you. We value you, even if you don't lead the league in points. If they don't, they signal the opposite, that unless you're a traditional superstar, your leverage doesn't matter. But here's the catch. The old rules don't apply anymore. Sophie's showing that you can be a star without being the highest scorer, that you can drive cultural relevance while flying under the stat sheet radar, that you can shift an entire narrative through smart branding, timing, and presence. So the Fever better act fast, because every day this drags out, her value increases. Every repost, every podcast appearance, every shoe drop, every fan demanding she stay. The temperature rises. The spotlight burns hotter. And if they're not ready to pay her worth, someone else absolutely will. So what's next? Will Indiana wake up and secure the deal? Or will they stick to outdated models that ignore the modern player economy? Will Sophie stay and lead the Fever to a title run? Or will she take her talent, her brand, and her momentum to a city willing to bet big? This isn't just a contract standoff. It's a test of how much the WNBA is really willing to evolve. Because everything about Sophie Cunningham's situation exposes a tension the league hasn't fully addressed. They say they want stars. They say they want the league to grow. They celebrate when the viewership spikes, when sponsors show up, when fans get loud. But when one of their own actually becomes the reason those things happen, it's like they don't know what to do with her. Sophie's not some overnight sensation. She's been building this. From the scrappy energy she brought in Phoenix to becoming the emotional heartbeat of her squad, she's always played with a chip on her shoulder. And now, that chip has turned into a brand. It's not just that she's good at basketball. It's that she gets the moment. She understands how the game works off the court. She knows how to turn a podcast quote into a viral topic. She knows when to make noise, when to drop a teaser, when to fuel speculation. That Adidas deal wasn't a fluke. It was a result of someone who's been curating her platform for years. And now that she's finally cracked the code, now that she's being rewarded with visibility, attention, and influence, people are acting shocked that she wants to be paid accordingly. This is the part that exposes a gap. The league is still stuck thinking that value equals points per game. But the new game, the one that exists in a world of viral clips, influencer power, and brand synergy, is bigger than the box score. Sophie's entire presence is proof that the modern WNBA star isn't just the person who scores the most. It's the person who keeps people watching. And the Fever are watching all of this unfold in real time. They're on the verge of becoming the team. Caitlin Clark has brought more eyes to Indiana than the league's ever seen in that market. The team's profile is soaring. And if they play this right, if they build around both star power and cohesion, they could build something that lasts. But to do that, they need players who can handle the heat, who can speak publicly without cracking, who can stabilize when the cameras are on and the expectations are insane. That's Sophie. She doesn't shrink under attention. She amplifies it. She doesn't need a game-winning shot to make headlines. She is the headline. And that kind of player, you don't let her walk over a contract dispute. But that's exactly the risk Indiana is taking right now. Every day that passes without a deal, the narrative builds. That they're hesitant, that they're unsure, that they're not ready to commit. And meanwhile, Cunningham's stock continues to rise. The cities she mentioned, New York, Minneapolis, they're not random. They're smart markets. They're media-savvy teams. They'd scoop her up and turn her into a citywide fixture in minutes. She knows it. Indiana knows it. The league knows it. And that's what makes this such a pivotal moment. It's not just about one player getting what she wants. It's about the league proving it's capable of valuing modern player dynamics. Because the truth represents where the WNBA is going. She's part athlete, part influencer, part brand ambassador. She's a type of personality that networks build segments around. She brings flavor, emotion, unpredictability. Everything that hooks a casual fan and keeps them engaged beyond the final buzzer. That matters. That sells. So when you look at her contract negotiations, it's not just a question of whether her assist-to-turnover ratio justifies a max deal. It's whether the entire package she brings, on and off the court, is worth it. And spoiler alert, it is. You can't build a championship culture with just highlight reels. You need people who can manage pressure, keep chemistry alive, and speak directly to the fans when things get messy. Sophie has done that in every city she's played in, and now she's doing it in Indiana, in the middle of the most watched season of the Fever's franchise history. You think that's a coincidence? It's not. She's not coasting on viral fame. She's capitalizing on it. And every interview, every campaign, every game where she steps in to facilitate while Clark or Mitchell draws double coverage, it's another receipt, and she's stacking them. What makes the situation so tense is that it feels like a showdown between two timelines, the old WNBA and the new WNBA. The old one was about quiet professionalism. Keep your head down. Let your game speak. Don't rock the boat. Don't challenge the system. The new one, it's bolder. It's public. It's strategic. It's players like Cunningham using media tools and brand leverage to demand respect on their own terms. And the old system is struggling to adjust. That's why this contract drama feels so much bigger than a salary figure. Because whatever Indiana does next sends a message. If they meet her number, they show the rest of the league they're building for the future. They understand that stars don't just shoot, they sell. They recognize that the game is bigger now, and they're willing to evolve with it. But if they don't, they risk reinforcing the idea that the league only rewards you if you stay in your lane. That if you bring too much heat, if you control your own narrative too effectively, you make people nervous. And that's the exact kind of thinking that holds a sport back. Because you can't market we grow the game on one hand, and then fail to pay the very players who are actually doing it. That's not growth. That's contradiction. Sophie Cunningham is not backing down. She's done waiting to be noticed. She's demanding to be paid, and not just for her stat sheet, but for everything else she brings with it. The personality, the pressure handling, the platform, the leadership, the branding, the proof. So the Fever have a choice. Match her value, or watch her take it somewhere else. And let's be clear, if she leaves, she'll be fine. There are teams that will build campaigns around her, cities that will welcome her energy and give her the freedom to keep building her personal brand while still being a winning piece on the court. If Indiana lets her go, they don't just lose a player, they lose a movement. So what's it going to be? Do they evolve with the league and pay her what she's worth? Or do they cling to outdated models that can't recognize value unless it's measured in points and rebounds? Let us know what you think. Should the Fever go all in to keep Sophie Cunningham? Or are they justified in playing hardball? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like if you're watching this saga as closely as the games themselves. Share this with someone who still thinks branding doesn't belong in sports. And subscribe. We're following every twist, every power play, and every front office gamble that turns athletes into icons or lets them walk out the door.